So we're dealing with lack of full brain development. We're dealing with strong cultural trends that even integrate into a young person's life as early as 2 years old. And we're dealing with also mimic behavior. Everybody else is doing it. Why can't I do it? Everybody else is have a cell phone. Why can't I? Let's talk about mimicking behavior, even when that behavior is dangerous. Let me set this up for you. There's a survey out there that says they have surveyed young people. 30 to 40% of our young people know that texting and driving is dangerous, but yet they still do it. Comment on that. Talk about why is it that they have been able to, if there's a function, there's a segment of the brain that is able to master the technology faster.
And certainly we know with young brains, because the brain is still developing, and it doesn't, there's one, she talked about neuroplasticity in terms of the brain's ability to, because it's developing, to be able to learn and incorporate new information. So, which is why, and I, think about my son going to a bilingual school, immersion school. The reason why we want kids to learn a new language as early as first or second grade is because if they can learn a new language that young, it's certainly easier for them because the brain, one way to think about it is the brain has more empty space to kind of learn stuff. But it's really more complicated, again, with the neurons sort of learning things and sort of has a greater potential for growth, right? So those kids who learn languages early on are able to learn more languages. So the same reason they're able to become bilingual and learn languages that their parents can't speak at home is the reason why they are able to sort of master these technologies.
And think about those of us who are, I won't say the ages, but 30 plus. Think about.
Not in that category.
Of course not.
Not yet.
Not yet. But just think about, we have been around to see the dawn of these technological developments, especially these more recent ones. And it is just as Dr. Gordon mentioned, I've had the same experience. This requires us to learn something new and to unlearn some things. Whereas the children, 20 years and under, they were born into this age. So this is all they know. Just as you alluded to a little earlier, Dr. Gordon, about dialing, they have no clue what we're talking about when we say dial a number, because they haven't even seen, they haven't seen a dial a phone, a phone with a dial on. So to them, this is all they know. So therefore, it's a combination of both of those things. It's a combination of their brains being, able to grasp, because it's new information, and that's all. But also, that's all they know. So you learn what you know.
And what you see, and one of the things that I've observed, and I'm not sure whether anyone else has observed, ever go on a metro, I guess if you went to any public transportation, whether it be New York City public system, Barton, San Francisco, and certainly the metro system here in Atlanta. If you stay on the platform while people are waiting for the train to come, very few people are reading a book or looking up.
That's right.
They're on their cell phones, texting.
That's right.
And the young people in particular,
listening to music.
which of course makes it easier for them. They don't worry about the train coming because they're so engaged in this conversation with who knows whom on the other end. But again, that's what they see. And I've been to weddings where I've seen one young person spend the whole reception and not talk to anybody else in the reception other than probably texting to a boyfriend or girlfriend or somebody who obviously is more interesting than those individuals who are there live.
Okay, let's seem to bring this to the lack in the growth of brain development, cultural trends that we talked about, mimicking and modeling behavior, the inability to grasp all of these developments all at one time at a very, very young age. And you can see why we have 32,000 young people dying every year, and the numbers are growing.
Yes.
And not counting the 100,000 who are permanently injured as a result, who didn't die, and who family has to cope with the whole idea of stress and deal with the issue of long-term care and create a psychological environment in which to operate off, which is not the normal psychological. They got to create a whole new coping mechanism to deal with it. Let's talk about responsibility. Let's start from the young people. Let's deal with the church. Let's also deal with the carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint. Let's start with the young people in terms of the issue of responsibility. What is the message here, Dr. Gordon? What is the message, Dr. Kern? What is 3 chief responsibilities for our young people?
From our adults in terms of what's our responsibility?
No,
what are their responsibility?
What their responsibility, because it's even though that we know that they are psychologically developing, but to give them no responsibility in the situation when they are the focus of it is as excusing their behavior. What should be their responsibility in moving those statistical data down?
I think first I would probably say the education.
Right.
The information is out there. Really pay attention to it. Even though their frontal lobes may not be fully developed, it is developed well enough for them to learn how to read and write and listen and be able to take that information in. I mean, one of the other components that we didn't take into account is the whole pubescence and all the hormonal change that happen. They know that as well. They have to kind of, even at some level, be able to say, just because I feel like doing it, I have enough intelligence to know that I shouldn't do. So the first responsibility they have is to get the information, pay attention to what their teachers, their parents, their clergy.
And that should come from the first teacher is their parents.
Their parents.
Then the second teacher is their schools, and then a third teacher is their church. And we're going to talk about the responsibility there. But you say that the first responsibility is to get educated, but not only the young person, would you also encourage the entire family to get educated concerning
Absolutely.
this?
And one other part of education, of course, is that television screen. Right. So, which again is something that we should do more and more as a family.
So we're going to want to turn that around, right? Just like this particular session, turn that around. We're going to use the same technological medium to teach them, to educate them, to empower them with a message that you do not have to text and drive, even though the cultural forces say so, even though your friends are saying so, even though the whole world is saying so. You do not have to text and drive, and there's an appropriate way.
Well,
responsibility, young people.
Yes, responsibility of young people, and again, these are young people who are at the stages of developing toward adulthood. And again, just as Dr. Gordon alluded to, there are other developmental issues such as promiscuous sex or irresponsible sexual behavior, drinking behaviors, drug behavior. In other words, this is the time of their lives when young people are expected to take on more and more responsibility for their safety and for making good decisions that have long-range impact for their lives and the lives of others, for that matter. So there's a huge responsibility here for them to understand that this is yet another area where it requires them to stop and think about the possible risks, the possible consequences, to consider, to recognize that yes, as you are exercising independence, you're also taking on more responsibility for your own behaviors and the impact on yourself, and to and to utilize that education and that and the positive role modeling to inform them to make better decisions.
And that's why it's important for the parents to be empowered through this educational session that we are trying to do, so that they would understand all of the many dynamics that are occurring all at the same time.
That's
in the
right.
young person.
The beauty of this initiative is not only is it the youth responsibility to get educated themselves, but they have to look out for each other. So they have to take what education they have and then share it with others. Because there is certain research out there that says that a child, depending on the context, youth will learn more from another youth than they will from adult. In other words, they hear it from us adults, and they'll say, "Oh, these adults don't know what they're talking about." But maybe if they hear it from another youth who they can identify with.
And it's completely different generations.
Yeah.
And of course, the adult generation didn't grow up with cell phones,
Right.
but they
That's
did.
right.
You know,
That's
this
right.
became their
That's
standard
right.
mode of operation and communications. And you can understand that, but that the same message, even though saying the same message, doesn't speak as loud, doesn't have as much impact as it's coming from other young people.
And the other message to young people in terms of taking responsibility, I don't know, most of you may have grown up with the adage from our parents that just because everybody else is jumping out the window doesn't mean that you do the same thing. And so it's about learning how to think independently. In other words, it piggybacks on what you were saying, Dr. Gordon, in terms of being willing to be that leader, to be that person who says, okay, well, wait a minute, you know what, it's not cool. I'm sorry, you guys have to turn those cell phones off or put on whatever the app is that allows it to be, your phone, the message that sends to your, whoever's trying to reach you, hey, I'm driving right now, I'm in the car right now, I'll get back to you when I can. Right. In other words, to be that leader who can then set the tone, to set the message, because what a lot of young people don't realize is that just going along with the group is not going to make you the standout. Sometimes they're afraid to take that risk of being looked at as the nerd or as the weirdo or as the uncool person. But oftentimes, if they take the lead in doing something that will have a long-range positive consequence, it will send a message to everybody else that, okay, wait a minute, you know, that person has a lot of courage. That person is strong. That person is a leader.
That person is cool because you know,
that's right.
they don't get influenced so much by what everybody else tells them to do.
That's right.
They're doing what they know, what they believe in, and what they believe is right.
So the National Black Church Initiative Do Not Text While You're Driving campaign that we have launched all over the nation here with the participation of about 7,500 congregation, is in your essence is doing the right thing by organizing these young people to send these messages that you have just articulated very clearly and powerfully about taking responsibility, being an independent thinker. And let's talk about the church role, and it is the church doing what is appropriate to decrease these numbers, both through its health program and through its education initiative.
I certainly think, especially on a number of levels, but certainly the fact that we get the church to be more responsive to these youth, then we're kind of letting them know that they have a role in the church, as a church has a role in the community. I also hope, as we talk about education, that these individuals will also get credit even in their high schools, because this is part of education.
Absolutely.
Many high schools have requirements for community service.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to give these kids another reason to sort of do it, you know, it certainly looks good on a college application to say that you've done things that shows some interest in the community, some groundedness in the church, that says that you have a moral compass, that you're not just concerned about yourself and doing what's popular, but more important in doing what's good.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because a part of the key part of this initiative in terms of organizing the teen text and driving groups is that they're going to have to save life, number one. Because the church valued their lives and their presence and their talents. And just like we pointed out, because they've been able to master the technology, they have much to offer in the future in terms of impacting the lives of the whole entire society.
And Reverend Evans, I'm glad you mentioned valuing their lives, because that is a very strong message, especially from the church, is that you matter to us. We're doing this because we care about you. Absolutely. And we care about you in the long range. We don't care about you just right now. We care about the rest of your life, and that's why we're doing this. And I really applaud the National Black Church Initiative for taking this issue on, and for being a leader in and of itself in terms of possibly influencing other segments, such as the parents, such as the school systems, such as the larger media possibly, as well as, you know, other entities that have a role in this. Because just as it was mentioned earlier, since young people are so influenced by what's the media and what's on the screen, you know, again, these various entities that have our youngsters' attention, you know, they all need to be sending the same message, because where there's consistency, then there's strength in the message. And again, it leads to the message having validity to the young people. In other words, if they can turn on their phone and it would be great. I think some of the auto manufacturers have been talking about trying to have something in the car that will disinhibit the phone. I mean to that extreme. But at least if they turned on the phone in the car and probably a satellite, beams down and has that screen say, "Hey, you're in the car now. Wait until you get someplace safe."
Right.
And they see it on the screen. Again, it has a different kind of impact than somebody's parents say, "Now look, don't you text and drive while you're in that car."
Exactly, that's the message. And
Yeah.
sort of to wrap this up, there's a responsibility incumbent on the cell phone makers,
Absolutely.
and the cell phone providers,
Absolutely.
your AT&T, your Verizon, your Sprint, your Boost, and all of these providers teaming up with faith-based communities.
That's right.
And launching educational initiative to empower, to send a message of caring and reinforcement and positive reinforcement of our young people. Talk to that and talk about the impact it would have on our young people when they see adults taking responsibility and providing these measures of education in terms of caring about them in their long term.
Well, without being too jaded, this is the AT&T, Verizon, Sprint's future customer base. Right now, many of those plans are under a parent. But if these kids don't, get to the point where they can use a phone because of disability or some kind of injury and of course death, that certainly decreases that. But even more important than that, it sort of says, we love you, we need you. Our society depends on you. You are, as we've said over and over, our future. Not just in terms of dollars and cents, but having the society. Because whether you're a person who works for AT&T, Sprint, you still have children, and you want a society that's good for them to live in as well. So you want to protect everyone's children, because those children of customers are your future, son-in-law, who knows what kind of connection they'll have with, but they will be the community, the neighbors of your children. So yes, we have to embrace, as they say in that adage about village.
Right.
We all have to be that village.
right.
We have to be that village that says that we care about you, and texting and driving is one way to make sure that you'll be part of the village for years and decades and generations to come.
And you know something, I have had the experience personally and professionally that when we're able to convey to young people that we care about them, when they feel that caring is sincere, then that is a highly influential variable there. That's a highly influential message. So I think that, again, that those companies, those technology, the phone companies, the manufacturers, if they can combine their goals around making money alongside, because we know that that's what they're in business for, but alongside of a message for, we want to truly invest in you because we care about you. When that message becomes sincere and gets across, that will be very powerful. And they're going to be the folks who truly end up being the more popular.
And going back to the whole idea of mimicking and modeling, what that also does in terms of it sends a message that we care about you. Kids start caring about each other. They start caring about their society, and then if they see a friend who's texting and driving, they may say, "Yo, that's not cool. Come on, I don't want anything to happen to you." So that rather than sort of getting angry at somebody because they didn't text you right away, you say, "No, it was cool that you didn't text. I understand you were driving."
That's right.
And because again, that same sort of compassion, caring that we get at the adult and corporate level can actually trickle down, maybe not trickle down, but maybe rain down on our youth so that they also care about each other.
That's right.
Very good.
That's the goal.
And that's the message. We deeply, sincerely love and care about all of our young people. And the National Black Church Initiative, the entire 34,000 churches around the country, has agreed with that message, and we will use the full throttle and the power of the Black church to reduce those numbers and to reaffirm the humanity in our children. And we will work with them as they go through this brain development, cultural trends, mimicking behavior, modeling those behavior. But we and the African American religious community want to reinforce that message Please do not text while you're driving. It can wait, but we will work with you, your parents, and these professionals to create an environment that texting and driving is no longer the rule of the road. And the only rule of the road is that you get from point A to point B. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.